What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to be installing a Motorsports hardware stud conversion kit on the M4 that I was able to pick up from Kies Motorsports, as well as a spacer setup that I picked up from Turner Motorsports. Huge shout out to Kies Motorsports for getting these shipped out so quickly, and then a special huge shout out to Turner Motorsports for sending these out so that I could do this video. Let's go ahead and see if we can get these wheels a little bit more flush with the body on the M4. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of the garage and pull it back in so we can get started. Let's cue the intro.
Perfect.
I tell you, it is still just absolutely crazy. The gloss on this car with that ceramic coat, it is literally one of the best things that you can do to these cars. It just, I'm in love with it. It just looks absolutely amazing. But let's go ahead and show you guys what our fitment kind of looks like right now without spacers. Obviously, the stud conversion kit is more of a convenience, and then the actual spacers are going to be more of a cosmetic look. So you can see right now, they're not really any type of flush. Less than ideal for sure. You know, there's definitely a lot of depth in that tire and wheel. So we're going to hopefully bring that out and maybe set it a little bit more flush with the fender. I definitely think it's going to give it a much more aggressive look once we're finished. I mean, it really does need to come out with a little bit of poke. So here are the two kits that we're going to be working with today. We've got our Motorsport hardware stud conversion right here. So here are our replacement studs, and then I actually optioned out for the race nuts that you can get here as well. They look a lot better, and they're just gonna look so clean. They are still compatible with the protective plastic coated 17mm to remove your lug nuts, so that is definitely a benefit. We can still utilize that. And then here is the Turner Motorsports spacers in black. These things look so good. So we're gonna start by getting the wheel off, obviously, and then we'll get the surface cleaned up. I'm actually gonna clean the barrels of the wheels. They haven't been cleaned in a while. And then I have some of this, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but some residue for some old weights. I'm gonna use my 3M remover wheel and get those cleaned up and pretty much just kind of clean up the barrels a little bit. And then we'll get started on putting the stud conversion and spacers on. Man, look at all that nasty brake rust in there. Wow, definitely gonna be cleaning these up. So as you can see, the barrels of these wheels are absolutely disgusting. So this like orange rust looking material that comes on here, it's from when you wash the car, the brake rotors actually get like a little layer of rust on them. And then of course, when you apply the brakes first, you get this. Now the faces of these wheels have been ceramic coated, so they're pretty much staying clean for the most part, but the barrels themselves have not. So I am gonna be actually ceramic coating the barrels on these in a later video. But for right now, these are the old tape marks that are absolutely hideous that we're gonna be getting removed today, as well as cleaning out these barrels. So you can see that the ceramic coat on the wheel faces here is really doing its job. Those beads are pretty crazy. And you can see once I hit it with the leaf blower how quickly these faces come dry. Completely dry. So looking in here, you can see that we really do have a good bit of rust buildup on the center hub here. So I'm going to use a wire brush here and clean the majority of this area up. Make sure we've got a fresh slate. And then while I'm in here, I'm going to go and actually clean out the liner. I'm not going to bore you guys with that, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to this being clean. Look at that. That looks so much better. Much cleaner in here, and I was able to clean up the calipers as well as the hub and get everything ready for our stud conversion kit. But before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and go back and take off that nasty 3M tape left behind from the old weights, get that cleaned up, and then we'll come back and actually start on the stud conversion kit. Just like that, the nasty, disgusting, hideous tape is gone. The barrel is now fully clean of any debris, rust, brake dust, as well as those old weight tape. So real quickly, just to touch on why somebody may do a stud conversion kit before we actually jump into it. So a stud conversion kit is mostly just used for convenience. It makes it 10 times easier to actually take the wheels on and off. You don't have to worry about the lug bolts and holding the wheel in place while you try to put the bolts in. The studs are gonna basically, you're gonna slide the wheel on top of them. It makes it 10 times easier. Another benefit is it makes it a little bit stronger. So these studs that I'm actually using, one, they're gonna be 78 millimeters in length. This is good up to 20 millimeter spacers. So I'm gonna be putting on 15 millimeter spacers today. So that gives me a little bit of leeway if I decided to go bigger down the road. But another benefit is that I'm actually changing the threads from a 14 by 1.25 to a 14 by 1.5, which ends up making the threads a little bit more coarse, adding a little bit extra strength, especially if you're gonna be tracking the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting in the studs now, and we're gonna torque those down to 25 foot-pounds with our torque wrench and our Allen key. So as I mentioned, these are gonna be 78 millimeters in length. As you can see on the bottom here, I have the OEM bolt that comes included with the car, and on the top I have our stud conversion kit. And as you can see, they are a little bit extended in length. The reason for this is whenever you apply spacers, you need to ensure that you're getting just the same amount of thread traction, so that's why you need the extended bolts in the first place. So when we're installing these, we're gonna use a little bit of Loctite on this end, and that is the piece that's gonna go in the car. Then we're gonna use our Allen key with our torque wrench to 25 foot-pounds on this side, and that's what we're gonna use to torque those down. So as I mentioned, we're gonna use some Loctite on this to get started on this side, which is gonna be screwing to the actual hub itself. And of course, if you guys need any of the tools or parts that I use today, everything of course is linked down in the description like it normally is. But let's go ahead and get some Loctite put on here and get started. So when you're applying Loctite, you only want to put just a little drop on here and let it sink down into the threads. So that's about how much I'm going to put on there, and then I'm going to put just maybe a little bit more right there. So I'm not fully covering the threads, you only want a little bit on there. And then from there, we just want to go ahead and get it started by hand. This ensures that we don't strip anything out. So I'm going to go ahead and put all 5 of these in by hand, and then we'll torque them all down. Now that we've got them all started, we're going to take our torque wrench with a 5 millimeter Allen key here, and we're going to go ahead and get these torqued down to 25 foot-pounds. So we've got all 5 of these tightened down to 25 foot-pounds, and then I went ahead and slid our spacer on here. One thing to point out about the spacers, you always want to make sure you get one that's hub-centric. Hub-centric basically means that it has another hub attached, which is this little lip here, which is what the wheel actually sits on. You always want to make sure that you get one that is hub-centric so that your wheel is not sitting on a smaller little lip that's loose. That's just one thing to point out. Also, once you have spacers, you want to make sure you're not using a drill to put in your bolts. You want to use a torque wrench and tighten your bolts on your wheels, or I should say your nuts, down to 105 foot-pounds as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel, toss it up here, and we'll tighten those down to 105 foot-pounds. All right, we've got our wheel sat up here on the studs now. We're going to take these glorious racing nuts here, and we're going to start putting those on by hand. You always want to hand start them so that you don't cross thread them. Now that we have them tightened down by hand, we're going to go ahead and take our protected sleeve 17 millimeter with our bigger torque wrench, and we're going to torque these down to, like I said, 105 foot-pounds. That looks so much better. It's a little bit more flush with the fender, which is exactly what I was going for. And I'll show you what the other side looks like. You can see absolutely no poke whatsoever. Definitely much better on this side. looks so much more aggressive. So you can see this is an extremely simple job to do, but the outcome is well worth it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other 3 wheels, and we're gonna see what the end result looks like. Today was definitely a late one. If you guys can tell, I'm absolutely drenched. The humidity here in the Carolinas is just unreal right now. But we did get a lot of stuff done. I was able to get the stud conversion kit put on, the 15mm spacers. I also detailed the entire wheel well liner as well as the calipers. I took the wheels, detailed the barrels. I also took a 3M remover tool, got rid of all of the old 3M tape that was left behind from previous weights from balancing. And ultimately, the poke on these wheels now with a 15mm spacer is perfect. For me, that's the ideal poke that you're gonna get with spacers on these. I'm not gonna run spacers forever. Once I get new wheels, of course the plan is to get a set of wheels that have the right offset to give me that perfect fitment so I can avoid using spacers if I can. But ultimately, for right now, this poke is absolutely perfect. Now, when I get back from the Kies Auto Show, we are going to be putting on the KW Haas kit to drop the car a little bit. Once we do that, I think that the fitment is going to be just absolutely mint. I mean, I'm not going to jump ahead, but I'm just going to go ahead and call it that fitment with the 15mm spacers is just going to be, it's just going to be mint. But ultimately, if you guys need any of the tools or parts that I used today, everything's going to be linked down in the description. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to go down and hit that like button. Also, make sure that you do subscribe for future content on the M4. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.